You can still buy a house in Ohio for under $50,000. Not a shed, not a condemned property with 17 disclaimers, an actual house with walls, a roof, and probably a neighbor named Dave who already knows your business before you finish unpacking. Here is what nobody is talking about. While the rest of America is drowning in six-figure down payments and bidding wars against cash buyers from California, Ohio is sitting there quietly with home prices so low they feel like a clerical error. But cheap always comes with fine print. Sometimes it is a river town that floods every spring. Sometimes it is a steel town where the mill left, but the prices never recovered. And sometimes, just sometimes, it is genuinely one of the smartest financial moves you could make right now. We are going through 25 Ohio towns where home prices are suspiciously low, and every single one comes with a moment where you say, "Wait, what?" One town on this list has a median home price lower than a used pickup truck. Another one has lake access and homes under $80,000. And at least 3 of these places are quietly becoming the next big thing while nobody is paying attention yet. Like this video so the algorithm thinks I matter. Subscribe because someday you will need an exit plan from wherever you are living right now. And this channel is basically the emergency escape hatch for your financial life. By the end of this video, you will either be opening Zillow or second-guessing everything you thought you knew about real estate. Probably both. Number 25, Youngstown. In Youngstown, you can buy a 3-bedroom house for under $40,000. And no, that's not a typo or a listing for a house that is currently on fire. Youngstown was once one of the most important steel cities in America. Then, the mills closed in the late 1970s, and the population dropped from 160,000 to under 60,000. Entire neighborhoods emptied out. Houses were abandoned by the thousands. Today, the median home price floats around $35,000 to $45,000. Rent averages about $600 a month. Cost of living is nearly 30% below the national average. But Youngstown has one of the highest violent crime rates in Ohio, a limited job market, and large parts of the city that still feel frozen in 1979. A local on Reddit said it best, "Affordable, yes, but you better know your block before you buy your block." Still, a small revitalization is happening downtown. Artists and remote workers are quietly moving in and making something out of it. Youngstown is not for everyone, but if you are patient and street smart, it might be exactly for you. Number 24, Warren. Warren is the kind of city where $45,000 gets you a full house, a driveway, and neighbors who have lived on the same street for 40 years. Located in Trumbull County, just northwest of Youngstown, Warren shares the Rust Belt story but has a quieter, more residential feel. Median home price right around $50,000. Rent hovers at about $650 a month. Crime is elevated, but the neighborhood you choose makes an enormous difference. Some blocks are genuinely peaceful, and proximity to both Cleveland and Pittsburgh means you are not completely cut off from opportunity. The job market locally is thin, so if you are not bringing income with you, plan to commute. Number 23, East Liverpool. East Liverpool used to be called the Crockery City. It was the pottery capital of the United States. Today, the median home price is about $38,000, situated right on the Ohio River where Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia meet. The geography is genuinely stunning. Rolling hills, river views, historic architecture. The bones of this town are beautiful. But the economic story is rough. High unemployment, limited jobs, and a community hit hard by the opioid crisis. Crime is above average, services are stretched, and yet people are buying here. Investors, retirees, remote workers who want acreage without a premium price. Go in with eyes open, a solid inspection, and a realistic plan, and East Liverpool can offer something most Americans have given up on. Actual homeownership without financial ruin. Number 22. Steubenville. Steubenville calls itself the city of murals, and that is not just a nickname. The town is genuinely covered in massive, colorful murals. Dean Martin was born here. The architecture along Market Street is impressive for a city this size, and the median home price sits at around $50,000, sometimes lower. Right on the Ohio River bordering West Virginia, Steubenville has a university presence through Franciscan University that brings students and some economic activity. Crime is a concern. Winters along the river are brutal in a way that gets personal. But for under $60,000, you can own a piece of a town that has more history per square mile than most places 4 times its size. Number 21. Zanesville. Zanesville is famous for the Y Bridge, literally a bridge that splits into a Y shape and lets you cross a river from 3 directions, and home prices that will make you check the listing twice. Median home price right around $60,000. Cost of living about 22% below the national average. Rent hovering at about $600 to $700 a month. Located in eastern Ohio, Zanesville has a population of about 24,000 and a downtown that is not completely given up. Crime is moderate, and the surrounding area puts you within driving distance of Hocking Hills, one of Ohio's most underrated outdoor destinations. Zanesville is the kind of town where $60,000 buys you a house and a community that still waves from the front porch. Number 20. Chillicothe. Chillicothe was the first and third capital of Ohio and has a history deeper than most people realize. The median home price sits around $110,000, affordable without being alarming. Located in Ross County in south-central Ohio, the job market is mixed with some manufacturing, a prison system that employs significantly, and growing outdoor tourism. Crime is above average but manageable in the right neighborhoods. What makes Chillicothe interesting is that it feels like a real functioning town. There's a main street that works, local restaurants, community events, and people genuinely invested in the place. For just over $100,000, that combination is getting harder to find almost anywhere. Number 19. Ironton. Ironton sits at the very southern tip of Ohio on the Ohio River across from Kentucky. Population under 10,000. Median home price in the range of $65,000 to $75,000. The scenery is genuinely beautiful. Wooded hills, river views, small-town pace. But the job market is extremely limited, poverty rates are elevated, and the region has been fighting the opioid crisis for years. What you get for the price is space, quiet, and a lifestyle completely disconnected from the noise of everywhere else. That is either the dream or the nightmare, depending entirely on who you are. Number 18. Portsmouth. Portsmouth has homes that dip below $50,000 in many parts of the city. Once home to a thriving shoe industry, Portsmouth got hit from multiple directions, deindustrialization, and then one of the earliest and hardest waves of the opioid epidemic in Ohio. But Portsmouth has been fighting back. Local organizations and community investment are real. The Scioto River corridor has natural beauty worth developing. If you buy here, you are not just buying a house. You are buying into a town actively trying to write a different ending. The risk is real. So is the potential. Number 17. Gallipolis. Gallipolis, which locals will correct you on immediately and politely, sits on the Ohio River in Gallia County. Median home price around $70,000. It has French roots going back to the 1790s, and there is architectural evidence of that history still standing. Healthcare is the dominant employer, anchored by a regional hospital. Crime is relatively low. The pace of life is slow in a way that feels intentional rather than defeated. For a remote worker who wants a house with character and a mortgage under $600 a month, Gallipolis is worth a serious look. Number 16. Cambridge. Cambridge is the county seat of Guernsey County in eastern Ohio. Median home price around $90,000. It has a functioning downtown, a hospital, and a manufacturing base that is not completely evaporated. The Cambridge Glass Museum speaks to an industrial heritage in glassmaking the town still takes pride in. Crime is average for Ohio. Cost of living is comfortably below the national average, and for a town of about 10,000 people, Cambridge offers a reasonable quality of daily life without requiring a mortgage that follows you into retirement. Number 15. Wellston. Wellston is a Jackson County town where homes can be found for under $50,000 without much effort. A former coal and iron region, it shares the economic story of most southeastern Ohio towns. But the proximity to Wayne National Forest means outdoor recreation is at the edge of town. And as remote work has expanded where people can live, small towns with outdoor access and cheap land are suddenly a lot more relevant than they were 5 years ago. The infrastructure is not perfect. The job market is thin. But for the right buyer, Wellston is a place the market has not fully priced in yet. Number 14. Tiffin. Tiffin might be the most underrated town on this entire list. Median home price around $100,000. Two universities, Heidelberg University and Tiffin University, sit within city limits. Crime is low. The downtown has genuine life. Restaurants, local shops, community events. And the job market, while not booming, is stable enough that you are not entirely dependent on importing your own income. Tiffin is the kind of Ohio town people who grew up there tend to come back to after trying the city and realizing the math does not work in their favor. That is not nothing. That is the quiet signal that a place has something real going for it. Number 13. Findlay. Findlay shows up on lists of best small cities in the Midwest regularly, and for good reason. Median home price around $160,000, higher than most towns on this list, but still dramatically below the national median. The economy is anchored by Marathon Petroleum headquarters, which brings white-collar jobs and stability that most Ohio small towns would trade anything to have. Crime is low, schools are good, the downtown is alive, and the cost of living remains well below the national average. Findlay is what you call a safe bet in a list full of gambles, not the cheapest, but quite possibly the best overall value. Number 12. Defiance. Defiance sits in the northwest corner of Ohio, where the Auglaize River meets the Maumee River. Median home price around $120,000. General Motors has a significant manufacturing presence here, which anchors the local economy in a way that makes Defiance meaningfully more stable than most Ohio small towns. Crime is below the Ohio average, cost of living is well below national average, and the town has infrastructure that punches above its weight in terms of healthcare, schools, and local services. Defiance is one of those places where you feel the value immediately rather than having to talk yourself into it. Number 11. Ashland. Ashland calls itself the world's nicest city, and while that invites skepticism, the town actually backs it up. Clean streets, active civic organizations, a university, a functional downtown, median home price around $130,000 with cost of living solidly below national average. Crime is low, and there is a groundedness to Ashland that makes it feel like a town that has figured out how to be okay without needing to be remarkable. In 2025, okay and affordable is genuinely hard to find anywhere. Number 10. Sandusky. Sandusky is home to Cedar Point, one of the greatest amusement parks in the world, and the median home price still sits around $110,000. That is not a misprint. Lake Erie is literally outside your door. The housing stock includes genuinely beautiful old Victorian homes at prices unrecognizable anywhere near water on either coast. Crime is above average and the off-season quiet can feel extreme. But if you want waterfront Ohio living at a price that still feels like 2010, Sandusky is your answer. Number 9. Ashtabula. Ashtabula is in the far northeastern corner of Ohio on Lake Erie, and median home prices can fall below $80,000 in many neighborhoods. It is part of the snow belt, which means lake effect snow that is not a metaphor. It is a real physical assault that starts in November and sometimes does not apologize until April. But the Harbor District has genuine charm. The covered bridges of Ashtabula County are legitimately famous, and cheap waterfront is a real thing here. That alone is worth paying attention to. Number 8. Waverly. Waverly is the county seat of Pike County, which has faced significant economic hardship and was the focal point of a high-profile criminal case that put it on national news in ways nobody in town wanted. But below that headline is a community where homes can be purchased for under $50,000, sometimes significantly under. The surrounding landscape is beautiful. The Scioto River runs nearby. For people who want land, privacy, and the lowest possible entry point into Ohio homeownership, Pike County is about as accessible as it gets. Just do your research. Know what you're walking into. Number 7. Martins Ferry. Martins Ferry sits across the Ohio River from Wheeling, West Virginia. Median home price right around $60,000. A small, Rust Belt river town with the history you would expect. But this town produced more NFL players per capita than almost anywhere in America for several decades, and locals still talk about it with audible pride. Crime is moderate. The job market requires a commute into Wheeling for most serious opportunities. But the housing stock is solid, the community has genuine character, and $60,000 still gets you something real here. Number 6, Conneaut. Conneaut is the northeasternmost city in Ohio, right on Lake Erie near the Pennsylvania border. Median home price under $80,000. The beaches, actual sandy beaches on Lake Erie, are genuinely good in summer. The town is small, quiet, and economically modest. But the quality of life for people who love water and not owing anyone very much money is quietly high. Crime is low, the community is tight-knit, and the price of a home here would buy you a parking spot in certain lake communities in other states. Number 5, Nelsonville. Nelsonville has something most towns this cheap do not have, a university. Hocking College sits right in town, which brings young people, arts programming, and economic activity to a place where the median home price still sits around $80,000. The Hocking Hills region nearby is one of Ohio's most visited outdoor destinations, and Nelsonville sits right at the edge of it. Crime is low. The vibe is low. Key Arts meets Appalachian culture, and there's a genuine community of people who chose to be here rather than people simply stuck here. That distinction matters more than it sounds. Number 4, Coshocton. Coshocton sits at the confluence of 3 rivers and has a median home price right around $80,000. The Roscoe Village Historic District is a genuinely charming restored canal town that draws tourists and gives the community an identity beyond just affordability. The economy leans on manufacturing and agriculture. Crime is low. Schools are decent for the price point, and the surrounding Amish country tourism in neighboring counties creates a stable regional economic fabric that keeps Coshocton more grounded than many of its southeastern Ohio neighbors. Number 3, Tiffin. Wait, we already covered Tiffin. Let us talk about MacArthur instead. MacArthur is the county seat of Vinton County, which holds the distinction of being one of the most economically distressed counties in Ohio. Population of the town is under 2,000. Median home prices can drop below $40,000. The surrounding area is heavily forested, quiet, and genuinely removed from everything. If you want land, privacy, and the lowest possible entry point into Ohio real estate, Vinton County delivers. But be honest about the trade. Healthcare access is limited. Broadband internet is inconsistent. Job opportunities are almost non-existent unless you are bringing your own. It is a place for people who know exactly what they want and are willing to accept exactly what they are giving up. Something worth knowing if any of these prices caught your attention. Cheap and good are not the same thing in Ohio real estate. Some of the lowest priced towns in this state are low for very good reasons that the listing will never tell you. We went through 40 Ohio towns and separated the genuine value from the traps that look like value. 20 towns where the data says the money is relatively safe. 20 towns where the numbers tell a story the brochure does not. It is all in one guide in the description below. 40 towns, real data, clear verdicts. If Ohio is anywhere on your radar right now, that guide belongs in your hands before you talk to a single realtor. Link is right below this video. Number 2, Sandusky. Actually, let us use this spot for Springfield. Springfield, Ohio has been in national headlines recently for reasons that are complicated and politically charged. But strip away the noise and look at the numbers. Median home price, around $120,000. Cost of living well below the national average. A city of about 60,000 people with a functioning hospital system, manufacturing base, and a community that has been living through a period of intense national attention it never asked for. Crime is elevated and the situation is genuinely complex. But Springfield also has architecture, infrastructure, and a price point that represents something real. It is not a ghost town. It is a working-class Ohio city still showing up every day. If things stabilize, the people who bought in at the bottom of a media-driven panic will look very smart in 10 years. Number 1. Detroit. Wait, Detroit is Michigan, and that is exactly the point. Because when you look at what Ohio is offering, places like Youngstown, East Liverpool, and Portsmouth, the prices are competing with Detroit, Ohio level cheap, without Michigan winters being quite as brutal. Without the infrastructure collapse being quite as complete, Ohio sits in that uncomfortable middle ground between bargain and gamble, and knowing which towns fall on which side of that line is the entire game. Some of these 25 places are genuine opportunities hiding in plain sight. Others are traps dressed up as deals. The difference between a smart move and a very expensive lesson is doing the homework before you call a realtor. Check the guide in the description. 40 towns, real data, clear verdicts. Do it before anyone else in your life figures out what Ohio is quietly offering right now.